check. Where's your script?
I got my script. It's over there somewhere.
You ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? Always ready.
Check.
100% ready. Mic check. Good. Good. Yeah. Everything good?
Okay.
Good. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm your host, Drake Abood, and you're watching The Evening Show. Good evening, folks, and welcome to The Evening Show. I'm your host, Drake Abood, and tonight's topic is going to be the legalization of marijuana. Recently, Colorado and Washington have legalized marijuana, which has sparked a very controversial topic about, is marijuana good for the U.S. or is marijuana bad for the U.S.? Earlier today, I got to talk to Dr. Burnett about the history of marijuana and how it has come to America and how it has sparked this whole entire controversial topic and how we got to this point today.
Thanks for coming, Dr. Burnett. It's my understanding that you're going to talk about the historical background of marijuana in the U.S. today.
Yes, it is. I'll be explaining the history of it and how it got to the point of being legalized in both Colorado and Washington.
Thank you. That'll definitely help with the discussion later tonight with Alicia Wallace.
Of course, it definitely will. So, first off, it was introduced during the colonial time and was farmed to make things such as ropes and clothes because of the strong fibers that it had in the plant, and it was easy to grow and easy to farm. There was this doctor in the 1830s, an Irish doctor named Sir William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, and he discovered that cannabis extracts actually help with things such as stomach pain, and things such as vomiting from people suffering from cholera. Because of this, it was all over pharmacy shelves in Europe and Asia.
Oh, right.
In the early 1900s, it was introduced to America as a recreational drug to like just smoke for fun kind of thing, and that was from the Mexican immigrants. But it started in Texas. The Texas people started to become a little concerned about it, so the state actually made it seem like this drug was bad, and they paired it up with immigrants and like it was their fault, and they used it to try and get rid of the immigrants because.
Right. Were they concerned? You said that they were concerned about. They started getting concerns in Texas. The citizens did. Why was that? Is it just because
these new people were coming in, they didn't know who they were.
Right.
Because they hadn't been introduced like the Hispanic people as much. So when they started coming into Texas and brought this new stuff with them, they thought it was kind of cool. Like they started using stuff, but they were at the same time they were like, I don't really know who these people are. Kind of thing.
About it.
Yeah. So they criminalized marijuana to try and help control the Mexican immigrants. So like if they made it illegal, so then if they found someone with it, which it would most likely be the Mexican immigrants, then they could easily get them to like leave or whatever.
Correct. So with all these drugs coming into the country.
Yeah. And then in 1971, President Nixon actually started what is called the War on Drugs. It wasn't exactly targeting the drugs itself, such as marijuana and cocaine, which was big at the time. It was more targeting groups of people. John Elcherman, one of Nixon's top aides, said this actually. You want to know what this was really all about? The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin and then criminalizing both heavily, we could distribute those communities. We could arrest their leaders and raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So he ended up coming out later on saying that like they knew exactly what this was and stuff.
So it was less on a war on drugs. It's more on a war for segregation.
Yes. He forced the marijuana onto the hippies because people are already against marijuana, so now they see the hippies with marijuana, now they're against the hippies. So, and they were against the war, but he had to be with the war because, blah, blah, so he had to go against them. Then this lost even more support for marijuana actually being like legal and stuff. But that all kind of changed in 1996. California actually legalized medical marijuana use with the Compassion Act of 1996. The act stated seriously ill Californians have the right to obtain and use marijuana for medical purposes, where the medical use is deemed appropriate and has been recommended by a physician who has determined that a person's health could benefit from the use of marijuana. So they wanted it to be used for people who were sick and stuff, and that happened in 1960, just in California. That definitely paved the way and helped for when it was legalized in Washington and Colorado, and then it gained even more support. People started to think, well, if it's legalized for medically, why can't people use it recreationally? And that's where it gained the support and stuff from Washington voters and Colorado voters, and became legalized.
So it started as like a criminal thing, like with recreation, and then moved to like, oh, we can actually use this as a medical like thing, and it can help people. So then it started being implemented in the states.
Yes, exactly. And that's where we are today.
Perfect. Thank you.
Tonight, I have a special guest named Alicia Wallace, who is going to come on and talk to us about how marijuana can help the country economically and how it can better America as a whole. Please welcome our special guest, Alicia Wallace. Thank you for joining me on the show today. It's a pleasure to have you. Everybody, Alicia Wallace. Thank you again for being on the show. I was very lucky to have you here. Earlier this morning, we got to talk to Dr. Burnett about the history of marijuana and how that has affected the economy. So today we're going to be talking about the economic benefits of marijuana and how it has affected Colorado.
Thank you for having me here. And yes, today we're going to be talking about how this drug will affect the economy in America and how it has affected Colorado economy.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So how has this affected Colorado's economy?
For example, from my notes, I can say that from studies, we have an increase of $2.4 billion in the economy. And that is shown especially thanks to an increase of $1 billion in the Colorado economy by 2015.
Nice, thank you. So what does this hold for the future of Colorado? Have you guys estimated?
In the future, there's a study that is made by New Frontier. So they're basically deciding to check on how the market of marijuana is going, because there's a supposition of an increase of $24 billion in the economy of like not only Colorado but whole America. So it's saying that it's going to increase a lot of the economy and it's going to benefit the whole the whole American economic situation.
American economic situation. By what year would that be?
2025, so in like 5 years.
2025. So that'll be good. What about jobs? How has this drug created any jobs for Colorado, or the legalization created jobs for Colorado?
Yes. For example, the increase of $2.4 billion as it was affected by like 18,000 new jobs at the beginning. So as soon as the law was passed, and now by 2019 there are 211,000 211,000 jobs that have been created, and 5.5% of the economic market is produced by marijuana market. So yes, there are a lot of new jobs and new employments, and it's really helping people.
So based off all that information in Colorado, do you think that culturally that will spark a upbringing in other states and other cities and stuff like that, legalizing marijuana? Like other states, do you think other states will fall in line?
I would think so. So since the legalization of marijuana in Colorado happened in 2014, and from there a lot of new states started legalizing marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are gonna arrive at the point where the whole USA is gonna legalize medical and recreational marijuana. So hopefully it's gonna help the market because it's not a real like dangerous drug, and it's gonna help the economy or the culture of the state. So probably.
So now shifting topics from more of an economic to a cultural perspective on how marijuana has affected the U.S. How do you think the view has changed? Because the fact that what we've learned earlier this morning with the talk with Dr. Burnett, the history of marijuana has been pretty negative view. Like the citizens and like all the people of America have had a pretty negative view on marijuana, and they saw it pretty much as like a very dangerous thing, and it hasn't really, like, just recently has the view on it in Colorado and how Colorado, we really wanted to know how like the legalization in Colorado has affected the view with all the new research coming out and everything like that, has really affected the view of marijuana as a whole over the US. So how do you think that the view of marijuana has shifted?
I really think that this shift happened. So people are starting recognizing that marijuana is not that negative, is not that it has actually positive consequences. That after this law, the economy boosted. There are new health improvements thanks to marijuana. So it's not only for like recreational use but also medical use. So yes, this shift really happened, and we can see that old people are realizing that this law should happen in more states. So like connecting to the answer I told you before, I think other states are going to legalize this, to pass this law. So legalize marijuana as not a drug but something helpful for people.
Right. So back to that. Since all this new information is coming out and scientific advancements are coming out about the drug, how dangerous really is this drug on a scale of like talking about like tobacco or not marijuana, talking about tobacco or alcohol related to that?
Actually, we can say that marijuana is not really dangerous compared to tobacco and alcohol because, for example, there's never been a death recorded from like marijuana overdose. So it's just something that it doesn't really kill somebody. It's not dangerous for the person. And instead, there are many cases of people. Instead, for example, like alcohol or tobacco are way more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And you said that there has not been recorded death.
No, never.
From an overdose of marijuana.
Never. There was a study once where they saw that a kid, so there was a kid that was born and like after a short time he died, but the problem was not based on after like a long study on his body and what he took. So like the doctor prescribed basically they found out that the death was not caused by marijuana legalization, but not legalization, but like the use of marijuana, but because he had an issue with his body before he was born. So that was the only case that they thought about, but there's never been somebody that died from marijuana use.
Which is very interesting because alcohol is very widely accepted by the U.S. and everything like that, and so is tobacco, and obviously the laws there is 18, and this new law here with marijuana is even a higher 21. So it is pretty crazy that because there's so many deaths of alcohol and stuff like that, and everybody's kind of freaking out like, oh, the legalization is happening, but again, we have had that shift of more positive thinking about marijuana and all the new health advancements of marijuana and how it really can benefit the country, and more people are thinking that. So it's very crazy to think that now.
Okay, thank you. That will conclude today's talk about marijuana. Thank you for coming on the show and joining us today to talk and share your information and share your studies and all the things that you have learned about the economic benefits and about the cultural benefits of marijuana. And hopefully I'll see you again on the show for the next time we talk about marijuana, and which will probably be soon considering the fact that the legalization of marijuana and moving to different states besides Colorado. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me here. I had such a good time, and I would really enjoy being here again to talk about legalization of marijuana and other facts regarding this topic.
Well, perfect. Thank you. Everybody, please give a round of applause to Alicia Wallace here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the evening show. Thank you to my guests for coming on and talking to me and having a discussion with me about the legalization of marijuana and the economic and cultural and historical benefits of marijuana. I'm your host, Drake Dude.